Have you ever wondered what it was like to live like a president? Not the kind that's mean and bossy, but one worth looking up to. President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa is an excellent example of everyone's favorite leader who lives a luxurious lifestyle. If you are curious about this, watch this video to look inside the lavish life of the South African president. Early life and education. Cyril Ramaphosa was born in 1952 to Samuel Ramaphosa, a retired policeman, and his wife, Erdmuth. His father had an important job and could afford to send him and his siblings to school. The family initially lived in the old Western Native Township before moving to Soweto, where Cyril began his education. He attended Chilidzi Primary School, and his high school years were completed at Mfafuli High School in Sibasa, Venda, in 1971. Cyril wanted to become a lawyer, and maybe his dad's work in law enforcement motivated him. He completed his studies in law at the University of South Africa. Upon joining the school, he dove headfirst into student politics. Desiring to make his impact felt, he joined the South African student organization known as SASO, where he could champion the cause of his fellow students. He also participated in the Black People's Convention to fight against unfair rules in South Africa. He fought for justice by day and, well, by night. There was never a downtime in the struggle against oppression. This part of his life was hard, and so was it for others in South Africa. He was one of the brave people who wanted to fight against unfair treatment. Things got very scary and dangerous. People began to protest and got arrested for speaking out. He was once jailed for 11 full months in 1974 because he was caught protesting after the government had banned any form of protest in the country. He was treated like a terrorist under the Terrorism Act. For him, there was no retreat and no surrender. Despite the difficult time in prison, he soon returned to the crowd. 2 years later, he would find himself in jail again, this time for 6 months, following another Soweto student uprising in 1976. This man would need an extra shelf if there ever be an award for persistence. Nation at the time and fought tooth and nail as his life depended on it. And indeed, that was the case. Journey to become president. Cyril Ramaphosa went from being a rebellious law student to becoming the president of one of Africa's wealthiest economies. He joined the ANC and was the party's chief negotiator to end apartheid in 1991. He also became one of the top candidates expected to become president after Mandela. Instead, he quit politics and started doing business. He knew how also to win their money as well. First, he brought McDonald's to South Africa. Then, he became head of a telecom firm called MTN. He also founded a conglomerate that put its nose in everything from food and beverage to the energy sector. He made some serious money in this period of his life, and when he was satisfied, what he did next would shock you. He decided it was time to return back to his first love, politics, this time as a man whom even his enemies could not ignore. He returned in 2012. Then he became vice president of Jacob Zuma, who later resigned due to several scandals. For your information, this was perhaps the most controversial African president at the time. When Zuma retired, the country needed a face they could trust and a trustworthy track record, and no one was more deserving than Cyril Ramaphosa. At this time, he was a couple of $100 million rich, and as such, he had no want of money, but he had acquired quite the expensive taste. Who wouldn't? At least he was better than politicians with no funding source other than their paychecks and would misuse taxpayers' funds. Keeping the South African president safe is really expensive. Realizing he probably has a lot of enemies already, he spared no expense to protect himself and his ministers. Believe it or not, the country's expenditure on private security can amount to as high as $400 million in a year. This covers all the important people in government, by the way, but of course he gets preferential treatment. He is the alpha dog after all. His personal security team includes a convoy of 9 cars, including bulletproof sedans and an ambulance, accompanied by up to 20 guards, depending on the occasion. And if he were going straight into the flames of hell, they would follow suit while armed to the teeth. Private jet collections. First and foremost, President Ramaphosa can use the official presidential jet. Forgive me, but it's like the South African presidential jet is stuck in a time warp. I mean, it's a Boeing 737, not a TARDIS. President Ramaphosa deserves better than feeling like he's trapped in a time machine every time he takes off. The jet probably has more stories than a history book, having been through more presidents than some people have had hot dinners. It's like the plane that time forgot, and the way it performs shows it. But hey, at least President Ramaphosa has his own presidential slumber party at 30,000 feet with his private bedroom and shower. It's like a flying hotel suite, with turbulence for that extra thrill. And when the official jet isn't available, he's hopping on a Boeing 727 and a Gulfstream. It's like he's collecting leased aircraft as a hobby. The old Boeing 727 is currently outdated, and a move was made in 2015 to acquire a new jet for the presidential fleet. The issue with the plane has given South African presidents a bad rep. It was like a mountain they could never scale. Well, they literally would have if the plane had been good enough in the first place. However, President Ramaphosa has managed to fulfill his international obligations by using alternative means. On these occasions, he and his team are transported on a Boeing 727 and a Gulfstream, both of which are leased from a South African airline. Then there's the Cessna Citation Sovereign, the party jet of the presidential fleet. With its club seats and refreshment center, it's probably where the president hosts his high-altitude festivities. And I won't forget the Embraer Lineage 1000, the backup jet leased from South African Airways. These arrangements are often the go-to solutions when the official aircraft is unavailable. The president's travel arrangements are often juggling leased planes and a vintage jet older than some rock bands. But hey, at least it's never a dull flight for President Ramaphosa. Car collection. President Cyril Ramaphosa has had a sterling career, and with that came a rather impressive taste for luxury, especially in cars. The very best vehicle in his garage is the armored BMW 7 Series. Suppose you heard the president will be in a place, and you happen to get there early. In that case, you'd probably see him arrive in a high-performance vehicle that, while built for security, is quite beautiful, like a luxury sports tank. This car costs about $80,000, but it was made custom fit for driving around the political head of the country, and this cost an extra $20,000, which puts the car's total worth at more than $100,000. It is hard not to see why the president loves the vehicle. It has the new 14.9 infotainment touchscreen and curved display introduced in the BMW iX. There aren't many physical buttons to press, as you have almost everything on the screen. You can regulate the audio, navigation, and more with a tap on the screen. It also has a much improved voice activation system, a personal assistant, and a heat comfort package that provides a heated steering wheel and generates warmth in the car. This is one of many BMWs in his lot. He also owns a BMW X3 M40i, an SUV that costs about $60,000. The car has the latest advanced driving technology, probably more than the first spaceship that landed on the moon. President Ramaphosa also owns a Mercedes-Benz C63 AMG, mainly applauded for its firm seat and strong support for the back across long journeys. Another exciting thing you want to enjoy when in the driving seat is the driving mode options that the car boasts while cruising on a fast lane. It also has a wide, expansive screen at the center of the dashboard, where you can flirt with many inbuilt features as you enjoy the best hybrid driving technology. Other incredible cars in his collection that convince me that this man is a total gearhead include the $35,000 Toyota Hilux Raider, which, if he feels good enough, he could go on a ride up and down the rough terrain of Mount Everest. He also has the Volkswagen Polo, the cheapest car in his collection, which costs about $24,700. It is compact, but definitely not lacking in class. It may not have all the bells and whistles of his other cars. Still, I bet the president loves the car for its simple yet luxurious, comfy feeling, given to anyone in the driving seat looking for an easy ride. This is evidently the life of dreams for others like you and me. What surprised you the most about President Cyril Ramaphosa's life and possessions? Is there an interesting part that I missed? Let us know in the comments. Do you want to watch more interesting videos? Click the one you see on your screen right now.